Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Comic Swag. It's your boy J Rock right here. Today we're gonna be dropping another review slash overview. So what are we gonna be talking about? We're gonna be talking about this book, Batgirl of Burnside. This book does everything completely different from the norm. You gotta think outside your box with this one, okay? Now the writers here, it's two writers. I believe one does like the plot and one does the dialogue. So it's Cameron Stewart, Brendan Fletcher. They're the writers of the story. Never heard of these names, but they bring some new blood, some totally new energy into Batgirl. And then we have Babs Tarr on art, who also does the same thing with the art. Now this is gonna be crazy. It's not gonna be for everybody. So we're gonna get into it a little bit. What I'm gonna do first is gonna kind of be like the new format. I'm gonna first talk about my thoughts about the book and opinions, right? Without giving any too much spoilers or anything, right? Then we're gonna go to the overhead view. We're gonna show the physical build of the book, so you can see how the spine looks, the cover art, dust jacket, etc. And then we'll do the sign off, right? Okay, so if that sounds good to you, let's get to what I thought about the story here. Okay, here Batgirl is because there's a lot of different Batgirls over the years, but the main one is Barbara Gordon, meaning Commissioner Gordon's daughter. So that's the Batgirl we're talking about right here. So in the New 52, there's two omnibuses that collect the whole New 52 run. It's the Gail Simone one, and then this one. This one's a lot thinner. The other one does the bulk of the run. This covers issues 35 to 52. So the last 17 issues. The first 34 issues are on the other omnibus, which would be about twice as thick as this one, because the other one covers 35 issues. This covers 15 or 17, right? So anyways, on this it's almost like a complete overhaul. When you finish the other book, it ends at issue 34. When this starts at issue 35, it's almost like you could just restart it at issue 1, because it doesn't connect to the other one almost in any way. The art, the writing style, everything is completely different. They don't even feel like they're in the same universe. It's freaking hot right here. I'm like, it's like 90 degrees. So anyways, let's get into this. When this run first started, it was right around the time when I just got into comic books. This was about halfway through, which is, it's only 15 issues, so it was about an issue 10 or something like that when I got into comics. And I was noticing on YouTube, this was getting a lot of hype. A lot of people were loving it. Everybody's like, oh, this is great. Oh, it's awesome. It was a lot of people from BookTube, right? So these are not your comic collectors. It's not ComicTube or Comic Book Tube, right? And it was a lot of like manga collectors or people that just didn't really follow comic books or continuity, right? So they were loving this because it's a great jumping on point. And this Batgirl is completely different. It's not the Batgirl you're used to, the one that would follow continuity, right? This series you can almost skip in continuity because it totally does its own thing, like if it was a separate universe. Now I remember a lot of people loved it. Now when we went to the comic book community, probably more people hated it than the people that liked it. So this was clearly reaching another audience. It was extending its reach outside of your everyday comic book fan, right? It was reaching a new audience, and it kind of worked because those people that did read it really enjoyed it. Me myself, I was just starting. I read a few of the single issues, and then I never continued it, right? I didn't think either way of it. I think I read like 2 issues, and then now that I read this, it's really good. I really enjoyed it, but you gotta take it for what it's worth. I don't follow Batgirl, so had I followed her and then I saw this completely hard left, where it's like a completely different tone, I might have felt like the comic book readers do. But since I came into it fresh, I don't follow the character much. I really enjoyed it. Here, let's talk a little bit about the style of the book and what it's about. Barbara Gordon, she just moves to Burnside. So Burnside is like if you're here in LA, Gotham and all that, I guess it's like East LA, right? South Central, the rough areas around like right here where I stay. Then Burnside is like the nice area, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, like little nicer. So she moves to this nicer area, college environment, and it totally gives off the tone that she's like a college girl, right? Has a dorm, shares rent and stuff. When you're young, you have a few friends live with you, you share their rent because it's rent is expensive, right? So you need help until you get older and make a little more money. She's in that stage of her life right here on this book. And this is a much more happy-go-lucky book. It's not dark and gritty like Batman would be, right? It's completely different, which I like because it brought a breath of fresh air, and it also I didn't want to feel like I'm just reading Batman again, but in a female version, right? So this isn't that. She's something else right here. Batgirl is real like new age, right? Very cutting edge and stuff like that. Although her technology is not really, it is cutting edge and it isn't. Let me explain that. Here she's not using the technology Batman uses, how she normally would, right? She's using all the he uses all the technology from FBI, military, so he's using all the cutting edge technology. She's not necessarily doing that, but she's like a hipster here, right? She's using all the hip technology that's open to the public, right? Like apps and Instagram, social media, stuff like that. So, like for example, to follow someone, she'll use an app to like, how do I get to this address and whatnot. She's using her cell phone, right? And then when she's catching villains and so forth, she'll take selfies, almost like a Spider-Man take on Batgirl, where she's more youthful, more hip, kind of like how Spider-Man when he's in his younger age. She takes this because she's using her social media to gain influence, right? So she gets a lot of followers, so now she has a voice. So when she says something or the media says something bad about her, she'll post, she'll tell the truth or whatever, or the way her side of the story on her social media. So now she has a following, a voice, so she could give her opinions and people will fight for her, right? The fans. No, you know, she was saving the day. She wasn't a vigilante and whatnot. That was real cool. So it gives a more modern take on the character, right? It almost reminds me of those young superheroes in the movie Kick-Ass. How they're young and they're using social media and whatnot. Kind of similar to that. Dating this guy that's a police officer because he showed up to the scene of a crime, arrested someone after she changed back to her regular clothes. When she was Batgirl, she apprehended the villain or whatever, changed to her regular clothes. The cop showed up. And then he thought she was cute, so they start flirting or whatever, right? And then now they're starting to go out. Thing is, as she gets to know this guy and they start talking when on their dates and so forth, she does start liking him, but he does not like Batgirl. He says vigilantes like Batgirl and that Batman. Leave this to the cops, right? You guys are just trying to take the law into your own hands. You know, it's not right. So he's definitely against them. And she's always arguing for Batgirl, but she's doing good. She's stopping criminals. And he's saying, but she's putting regular people in danger. Police procedures, we could just go around shooting people if we wanted to, but police procedure first is make sure everybody's safe, nobody's around before we take action, so that nobody gets hurt, right? And that's kind of is what they do. That's why they work so much slower, because priority number one is public safety, right? That makes for a real interesting dynamic. I wish they would have dug further into that, which they kind of didn't. They just left it at the surface level, but that story in itself had a lot of potential with the two to see where it went, right? Can she convince him to, you know, lighten up on the vigilantes, or would they break up? Like, I kind of wanted to see where that went, that relationship, and we didn't really touch on it much more than surface level. I'm gonna do an overview, flip through some of the pages, and there might be some spoilers now, okay? Because I'm gonna flip through some pages and I wanna talk about some parts of the story, because this is 3 trade paperbacks. Each trade paperback, I believe, is like 5 issues, right? So it's 3 of them, 15 issues. And the first volume that's in here, man, that was a really good story. The second story arc, it fizzled out a little bit for me. But the first one was really strong, like a 10 out of 10. Second was more run-of-the-mill. I'm going to show them, and there will be spoilers here because I do want to talk about them a little bit. So hopefully once I show the build and the spine and all that, if you don't want to see the spoilers, skip that part. But I will be talking about the first volume because it was so good. Alright, so here's the overview of the book. This is the front cover. You get an idea of the art style, right? So the way this art style is, it's not like your typical comic book. It's a little more simplistic and whatnot. So this is kind of how this reflects what the tone of the stories are going to be as well. The writing is going to be very much like what you see here in the artwork. This is the back of the book. Now, one thing I got to mention is that this dust jacket is the first time I've ever got a book in my collection where the dust jacket is a matte finish. So it's not glossy. That's kind of odd. I don't know how I feel about that. I do like the paper to be non-glossy and just like a matte finish. But the dust jacket, I kind of would prefer if it was glossy, because it's easier to clean or wipe down, right? Here's the spine. So you see it's not a huge book. On the description down below, I'll show how much pages it is. And the cover price is $100. So this is the overall look of the complete dust jacket. And this is the look of the book. Front cover, back cover, spine. I really enjoy it. I think it looks pretty cool. Kind of cartoony, like I said. And this is the type of interior art you're gonna get, but you do get like 3 different artists. Now here's the spine. Typically you would want more of an eye right here. You get a little bit, not a lot, but it's fine. Like look at here. This is the gutter loss right here. You would want that, the flatter the better. So there is a little bit of it there, but once you get to the art, it's perfectly fine. Okay, now here are the interior covers. It's just pink with a few bats flying around. You get Batgirl right there, who is on the book. And what I don't like is you don't get a table of contents. Right after this, the story starts. This is the cover. So you do get covers, like all DC books, you get the covers, but you don't get the number. And you don't get the title over here, which I'm not a fan of that. I like to have the title because here, for example, it's all Batgirl books, issue 1, 2, 3, pretty straightforward. But sometimes there'll be like a Batman issue included, right? And then they'll throw you out for a loop, so then you don't know what issue is which. Is this the Batman issue or is this the next Batgirl issue? So I don't like that. Here the story starts. Now you see the art. People hated this opening. I remember this because this is Batgirl. She's walking around in her underwear shirt. She's in college life, right? Look, with all her friends here in the dorm. There's almost like a sorority, if you will, but they're not really a sorority. But yeah, it shows everyone here. People hated this at first. I didn't mind it. It is a little bit cringy at first because you're like, oh, what? If the tone was going to be like this for the whole book, I don't know if I would have finished it. But it's like this for like the first issue. And then after that, it kind of finds its feet and it becomes its own thing, right? And after the first issue, it kind of settles down and it kind of knocks that stuff off, right? And then it becomes more of a superhero book with its own twist. Now look at the panels here. Very simplistic, almost like something you would get in Archie's comics or something. So this artist Babs Tarr's, you're like, what's so amazing about it? It's pretty basic art style. She does a lot of interesting things I don't see a lot of artists do. So she brings her own flavor and she does get creative with it. So I really enjoyed it. Once you're actually reading it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, so here she's walking down the stairs and she meets Black Canary. So it turns out Black Canary, her house burned down. And in her house, Barbara Gordon had her Batgirl suit there. So it burned down. So she's like, oh man, my costume was over there. You see her right here tripping out like, damn it, what am I going to do now? So what she does is she creates a new costume with material she has around her new apartment, right, with her friends. So now you see her in some Skechers and some totally different costume, which I really enjoyed. I thought this costume was badass. Now look at here. Look at what the artist did. This is a 2-page spread. When an artist does a 2-page spread, they usually just want one big picture. She did something totally different with it. Batgirl here is tracing her steps. So everything stays the same, but it's just her moving. She's, I remember at 2 o'clock I was here. This person was drunk with some beer. Looked kind of suspicious. These 2 couples were talking and arguing and then this. And so she's showing everything that happened. You get a foundation, not only of her steps, and then bingo, we got the guy in pink, like this is the culprit, right? But not only is she doing this, what you're also getting is look at the whole apartment. So you see there's the living room, the sofas, here's a little table, then here's the kitchen, and then you go to the bathroom. So what it's doing here is kind of giving you like a little map, right? So when you're reading the book, when they show the backgrounds, you know exactly on what area the characters are, and you know the foundation of the apartment. That was real cool. Page where she's building the infamous new suit. You see her doing the bat logo there, cutting material, you know, doing all this. She's trying on those pants, and bam, this is the finished product. This is her new suit with yellow boots and everything, right? This is its own complete new flavor. I really enjoyed it. Not only that the costume is cool, but it has bright colors. It's uplifting. It's a fun read. Here we get this guy right here. He's kind of like a rapper or whatever, but he uses his social media to kind of manipulate his fans to get to kind of get his way or get them to kind of do things he wants. And also another thing this guy does, he's very shady. He tries to find people that can hack into other people's social medias and stuff like that to get private information and blackmail them, right? Like with Batgirl, for example, he thinks he may have found her identity. So he's going to blackmail her. Oh, I know your identity if you don't give me this and that. But he doesn't actually know her identity. The story gets deeper than that. Like I said, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers here, guys. It gets tricky here because he does something even more crazier. Okay, for example, this is a good page right here. He's saying how he got this thing surgically inserted into his brain and then comes out through his eye like a scanner. so he could scan people's memories and get all their, know stuff about them basically. And he's telling Batgirl, "Oh, I'm gonna release your identity and so forth." Batgirl says, "Okay, wait up." She gets her phone. She goes, "Take this picture, scan it. You'll get my information." And the scan she puts is so it could delete everything in his brain. So she's real smart and tech savvy herself. He scans it. He doesn't know that's what the picture was gonna be. So when she shows it to him, he presses it and bam, he's been bamboozled. That erased all his memory. That was pretty cool, kind of exciting, and totally different from your regular superhero comic. This is her next villain. These two girls. Now there's the cover, right, to issue 2. They're big fans of Batgirl. So why are they trying to kill Batgirl? When they're fighting her, they say, "Hey, Batgirl, you send us to kill you." And she's like, "Why would I send you to kill me?" Right? That doesn't make any sense. Look at this action fight scene here. It's a 2-page spread, but again, it's just one long panel on the top and then 3 panels. Very creative, different. When you get long panels like this, especially when you're in a car or a motorcycle type of a situation, what this gives is the feel that they're going fast, and then look how much ground they're covering. So this was really smartly done because they are on motorcycles, you see. And here I like how it shows a Batgirl grabs this tower here, right? But in grabbing it, you zoom in because we can't really get a look at her feet. So the artist zooms in right here. Paul Acaceta is a master at doing this on Outcast. So now it draws attention to the feet. Look at how her feet are rubbing on the ground because the motorcycle's dragging her, right? So this gives a feel of action. But if she didn't zoom in with this panel, you would not have seen that here. Paul Aceta always zooms in on little important facts that you need to look at in case you're not noticing them. He'll zoom it in so that you do notice them. Here is the other Batgirl. Basically freaking Taylor Swift or something, right? Beyonce. You know how they wear all these glammed out outfits on their concerts? So she's a big pop star. She's the one that's sending everybody through her social media. "Come kill me, guys, if you can. You'll win a reward and whatnot," right? That's not the real Batgirl, though. She's doing all kinds of dumb shit. So when she's doing this stuff, she's putting on her social media, and Batgirl's like, "She's ruining my reputation and she's ruining my social media." It's like, that's not my real account and that's not really me, right? This is a fake account that's not really me. So these other fans of Batgirl, they're dressed as her and they're also following orders that she's putting on Twitter. So it's kind of a play on showing how social media how they're influencers, right? They can get the people to agree or do things they normally wouldn't do because they look up to this person so much. And they all look up to Batgirl, so they're following all these dumb things she's telling her fans to do. Now look at all the girls here. They're out to the club. Black Canary, Batgirl, and their other 2 roommates. Now they do a really good job developing these other 2 characters as well. They're side characters, but this one slowly starts becoming a bigger and bigger part of the story as well. She kind of gets to the point where she kind of wants to become her own superhero. I thought she had a lot of potential. I hope they use her going forward and maybe she does become a superhero herself. I have no idea. I have not read past this myself. So this is from like 2019 or something. So for all I know, maybe she is already a superhero. I'm not sure. Okay, so as they're at this party, here's the girl throwing the concert. This Batgirl, and then bam, the real Batgirl shows up, and they're gonna get into it. Now here's a twist. When she's chasing her down, she removes her mask. It's a guy. I was like, holy shit, this was crazy. When I saw it, I totally tripped out. It's a guy that we've seen earlier in the story, and she's like, "Oh, it's you." And I didn't know it was him either. I was like, damn, I remember that from like issue 3 or whatever. So he's the one trying to be Batgirl. And he's telling Batgirl, "You have the social media, you have so much influence, why aren't you using it correctly?" And Batgirl's telling him, "You're using it completely incorrectly, not me." So that's debatable who you think is right or wrong there, which is obviously Batgirl's right. But anyways, they start fighting. He thinks he shot her. She jumps backwards, right? And she falls into the water and he thinks, "Oh, I killed her already." But I like the way the art shows here, how the bullet, it clearly missed. But when you're shooting a gun and you're moving at 100 miles an hour, right? And she jumps, we're seeing it in slow motion, so we notice he missed, but he doesn't notice because it just happened so fast, right? So now he believes Batgirl's dead. After the first story arc, we get introduced to other characters. Like for 2 issues, we get introduced to Spoiler. Next 2 issues to Luscious Fox, his name is Batwing. I really want to read more on that character. He's like a new Batman, but he uses like a Iron Man type of suit, but it looks like a Batman suit, right? And then you have at this time, the real Batman, he's believed to be dead, and Commissioner Gordon is using this robot suit, like a Gundam suit, to play the Batman role. Oh man, that part that sucks. That was towards the end of the Scott Snyder run, and he shows up right here. I don't even want to talk about that part, that run or whatever. I really disliked what they did with Batman there. That was just something completely different. And now that I read this is completely different, but it's good in a good way. That Batman, that Robo-Bat, is completely different in a terrible way. And I think Scott Snyder saw what they were doing with Batgirl, and he tried to do the same thing. Like, oh, I'm gonna do something completely different, and you see if people like it, but like everybody hated it. I remember it's not Batman. This is just not Batman. So, anyways, this next stories they started including other characters just so you could see this is part of continuity, and the stories are not as good as that first story arc. There's a few issues where we get Bengal. He's a famous European artist. I'm not too familiar with him. This is my first introduction to him, but I have heard the name, and I know he has a lot of clout right behind that name. And I was looking at this, and his art is somewhere in between this cartoony art from Babs Tarr's, and it's somewhere in between like your regular comic book art that we come to expect from superhero comics, right? So it's somewhere in the middle. I enjoyed it. He does a good job storytelling, and it fits. It fits with this cartoony art, so it's not completely different or too jarring. And it would have fit had it been in a more traditional superhero art. One thing I could say is on this at this time there was Gem and the Holograms. They were coming out with their own comic books. So Black Canary, Spider Gwen on Marvel, Hellcat at Marvel, Batgirl. A lot of these girl characters were getting these vibrant colors on their stories, and they all included some type of rock band because Gem and the Holograms is a rock band, and they use this bright fluorescent colors and so forth like this, right? So a lot of the girl comics were trying to have their version of the Gem and the Holograms books, right? But Marvel and DC were trying to do the same thing. Here we gotta look at this art. I noticed there's a certain style with European comics because their books are like wider. They go like wide like this, right? So therefore it opens up the opportunity to do panel layouts a lot different. Like you could do a square like this and then you could add other squares here, right? So the way he lays out panels, it's definitely in the tradition of how European comics do it, but now he's working with less space wide-wise, right? Working with less space, so that's kind of interesting because the panel layout still looks similar though. And here, look, clearly this is a lot more dark and gritty. Look at the fire and the colors. The colors are not as vibrant, right? They're more mellowed out. So this is like a little bit more realistic than the happy-go-lucky story arc we were reading previously. But this art is also really good. And if you notice, there's not a lot of dialogue. Look, they're just letting the art tell the story. So it's kind of like this artist's way of showing off, basically, right? Like, look what I could do, look what I'm capable of. So that he makes like his grand entrance into the book. Like, oh, this is that artist we've been hearing about from France or whatever, right? I don't really know what country he's from. I just know he does European comics. So here, towards the end of this story, this bus is falling. We see her climbing here. You see the bus falling. She jumps out of it. I like this panel here. She jumps out, and you see the bus just keep falling. But she's safe. She's holding onto the bridge. Oh no, she's falling off, but she pulls this thing and it has wings. So a nice little story. I enjoyed it, and the art, thought it was really good. I'm a fan. I would definitely pick up more of his artwork in the future, as long as he's working on a book I'm actually interested in, right? I wouldn't pick it up only for his art. I have to be interested on the character or the story arc or whatever. And here we go back to Babs Tarr. I want to see her get more work. I want to see her on more books because I really like the art here. But again, it has to be a specific type of book. It's not going to work with like Batman or something, right? But this type of art style and storytelling definitely extends its reach outside of comics, right? This would work in graphic novels that are like in your elementary schools, junior high, stuff like that. Because it has more range to it, right? This is that new robot Batman that we had at this time. Oh man, he's terrible, terrible. He was so bad they kicked Scott Snyder off of the Batman book. I don't think they kicked him out of that. I think he was already about done. So he tried to do something different, right? He's like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm almost done with my run anyways. And yeah, he totally failed. That was a big 0 out of 10. Alright guys, that's all the time we got for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. You already know what's up. And if you read this, let me know what you guys thought about this, because I know this was divisive amongst the comic community. So let me know your opinions. I'd be really curious. All right, other than that, I'll just check you guys out next time.